going to be continuing from yesterday. How to always do what? Remember Krishna and never forget him. And yesterday we looked at verses from the Bhagavatam. Today we're going to be looking at verses from the Bhagavad Gita. And many times when Srila Prabhupada was asked, how can I see God? He would respond with verses, especially one from the 7th chapter, that I'm the taste of water, I'm the light of the sun. There's one class in Tokyo where one young man asked Prabhupada, how can I see God? Prabhupada said, you should see God as God is recommending, in the light of the sun and the taste of water. Why don't you sit where you can see the presentation? Yes. Can you see it from there? Okay, great. And as I mentioned yesterday, there's one class where Srila Prabhupada says that if we practice thinking like this, we will not be in the material world. One class he says it 3 times. There will be no material world. There will be no material world. There will be no material world. And that Maya is something that exists only within the mind. That's in Krishna book chapter 20. How do we perceive the world? Do we perceive the world as separate from Krishna and for us to try to enjoy it separately from Krishna? Or do we perceive the world as the body of God and meant to be used in his service and meant to be a way that we connect with him? So we're going to be looking at Bhagavad Gita chapters 7, 9, 10, and 15. Yes, why don't you move closer? Like, yes, there you go. And as I mentioned yesterday, we have a special treat at the end of this class. Okay, starting with chapter 7. So here Krishna says that he is Om. So there's 3 times that he says that he's Om. So as we know, this whole material world was created from sound, and that sound was Om. And the scientists tell us that even solid matter is actually moving. Right? The atoms are moving, the molecules are moving, and movement means sound. Actually, this vibration of Om is everywhere. Now, not only is Krishna Om, but he says he is all sounds. So who remembers from yesterday, where are all sounds coming from? What part of Krishna's body? His ears. Yes, all the sounds are coming out of his ears. And Prabhupada often quotes this verse, I am the sound and ether, Krishna saying. Oh, again, like yesterday, please take notes and pick 1, 2, or 3 of these specifically that you want to meditate on in the next week. So please be taking notes during the class and make a note of 1, 2, or 3 of them that during the next week you're going to specifically meditate on, and I'll be asking you at the end of class to share that. So this is one that I really like to meditate on because it's very intellectually challenging, and I like intellectual challenges. So to pay attention to the sounds. We have kind of a motor sound. Okay, clicking sound. Paper streaming. So all those sounds are actually Krishna. And I like meditating on how the sounds are Krishna. There's one incredible class where Srila Prabhupada says, if you don't want to chant Hare Krishna, you can meditate on how Krishna is in all the sounds. And that all sound is originally spiritual. Then Krishna says he's the seed. This is another thing he says 3 times. I am the seed. So of course bhakti is compared to a seed. That the Guru plants the seed of bhakti in the heart, and by the process of hearing and chanting, this seed grows until it produces flowers and fruits that come to rest at the lotus feet of the Lord. And righteous romance. So when you see husband and wife that have, as Prabhupada says in the 3rd canto, a reciprocation of service and love, and when you see that they're raising their children also with affection, trying to give them devotional life, that is Krishna. And Krishna says he's the strength of the strong without passion or desire. So when we are using our strength to help others, to protect others, or when we see other people using their strength in that way, that is Krishna. So the heat and fire, we talked a little bit about this on Sunday. So if we can become aware of the heat in this room. So I once read a scientist saying that the universe is a cold, impersonal machine. But that is not true. The universe is full of heat. And as I mentioned on Sunday, heat is indicative of life. How do we know that someone's alive? They're warm. And warmth is also an indicator of love. We talk about a warm embrace or cold stare. And if we can become aware of the heat in our environment, and that heat is the presence of a living, loving God, and the fragrance of the earth. So from what part of the Lord's body does the fragrance come from? Anyone remember from yesterday? From his nose, yes. Prabhupada would say that even if you don't read the scriptures, and even if you don't have a guru, you can find God in the fragrance of a flower. One time a devotee gave Srila Prabhupada a jasmine flower. He kept it on his pillow all night, and in the morning he picked it up and he said, yes, this is God. Why don't you move so you can see the presentation? You can see it well? All right. The penances of all ascetics. So what is penance? Penance is we've done something wrong, and then we put things back into balance. The simplest type of penance is a genuine apology. Is a genuine apology easy or hard? Very hard. I remember reading on social media, this was about 2 or 3 years ago, that one person wrote, well, my authorities have asked me to write a genuine apology, so if any of you are so sensitive that you were offended by what I said, I'm very sorry for that. An ascetic is somebody who's dedicated their life to putting everything back in balance. It's very interesting, right before Krishna tells Lord Brahma the 4 key slokas of the Bhagavatam, he says, Tapo me hridayam sakshat. Hridayam is heart, sakshat is directly. Tapa is penance. Krishna says, penance is directly my heart, and he says, Atmaham tapaso, Atma aham, myself. My very self is penance. When we put things back into balance, when we let go of our false ego, penance means ultimately letting go of our false ego, doesn't it? Admitting that I did something selfish, I did something cruel, I did something thoughtless. And putting things back into balance, there is Krishna. The life of all that lives. So if we can become aware that we are alive, if we can just feel our aliveness, our sense of being alive, and then to become aware that everyone in this room also has this sense of being alive. The trees, the birds, the insects all have this sense of aliveness. The world is full of aliveness, and that is Krishna. The intelligence of the intelligent. So we all have some intelligence, and every once in a while we do something that we're really proud of our intelligence, right? We do something we're like, wow, that was smart. That's Krishna. Prowess. Prowess means skilled strength. So all powerful persons, their skilled strength. That is Krishna. The light of the sun. This is also something he says 3 times. I think sunlight is something that we often take for granted. No? There's light outside. So if we could just stop for a minute, right? It's getting to be the end of the day, and we have a few windows and a door here, and the sun is so many millions of miles away. We have some artificial light, but still there's quite a bit of sunlight filling up this room. And to just get our awareness of the sunlight. The sun gives us courage, it gives us knowledge, gives us the ability to function, and this sunlight is Krishna. And the light of the moon, the beautiful, cooling moon that gives us relief at the end of the day. Krishna is often compared to a moon. Right? Lord Nityananda's lotus feet are compared to millions and millions of moons. Our ability. This is a very easy way to meditate on the Lord at any time, because we're always using some ability. Right now we're using an ability to sit, to see, to hear. Try wiggling your toes. How are you doing that? That's Krishna. Every time we're using any ability, or any time we see anyone else using some ability, that is Krishna. The taste of water. So this is again a verse that Srila Prabhupada quotes very often. Rasoham apsukanteya. Of course, we talked about rasa. Where does all the rasa come from? What part of Krishna's body? His mouth, from his tongue. And that taste of water is pure water, especially if it's been a hot day. You've been working really hard, you're perspiring, and that. Of course, rasa can mean from any liquid. Srila Prabhupada often emphasizes whether it's, orange juice or mango juice, lassi, any liquid. That taste, that pleasure is Krishna. So we looked at the 7th chapter. Now we're going to go to the 9th chapter. So the ritual, the kratu. So we all have so many rituals in life. Just like when I visit our younger son, and we're loading the dishwasher, so he'll put the wooden objects in there and the measuring cups with the measures on it, and he says, that's fine. And we put it away, the plates go over here and the cups go over here, and then when I visit our older son, he won't put wooden objects in the dishwasher, and he won't put measuring cups with printed things on it. He says, we'll take them off. Right? So those we have to wash by hand, and then the plates go over here and the cups go over there. So they have their different rituals. And these different rituals are according to their desire. So the rituals that we have in spiritual life are indicative of Krishna's desire. And Krishna's desire and Krishna are the same. Then he says he is the yajna. Prabhupada usually translates yajna as sacrifice. Yajna means some ceremony of connecting with the divine. So whenever we want to connect even with another person, we have to use some ceremony. Like if I want to connect with our daughter, so I have to have a ceremony. I have to get out a phone. It has to be on a network or Wi-Fi. It's got to have power. I've got to put in the right number. If I put in one digit wrong, it's not going to work. And then I have to be aware of the time. Right now she's 7 hours earlier than we are. So if I call her at 1 o'clock in the morning her time, I probably won't make a good connection. So the different yajnas are the way that Krishna wants to connect with us, even again with other humans. I mean, some people, they want to connect by email, some people by WhatsApp, some people by Messenger, some people by Telegram, some people you call them, some people SMS, some people you have to be in their same geographic location and talk to them face to face if you want any communication with them. So Krishna has his ways of wanting to connect with us, and those are the yajnas. And then again, his desired way of connection and himself are the same. The offering to the ancestors. So Krishna likes it when we honor the family elders and the proper spiritual traditions. And the healing herbs. Remember what part of Krishna's body are the herbs and the drugs? They come from his nose, and the potency comes from his nose, and what part of the body are they? The hairs. So they're his hairs that he breathes on, and they're full of that potency. So we all know what it's like to be ill and then to take some medicine, and afterwards we feel rejuvenated and we feel healthy again, and that power of healing is Krishna. The transcendental chant. So Krishna says he's all sounds, so then especially the sound of his holy name. So he said he was the ritual and the yajna, and then he's also all the ingredients that make up the rituals and the ceremonies. The Father. So in every religion, God is known as the Father. So we all have a Father. I hope all of us here have a good relationship with our Father. Some of you are fathers. Every day we interact with some fathers. So if we took what is the ideal of being a father, someone who provides for the children, maintains them, make sure they get an education, make sure they have fun, make sure they have friends, make sure they're prepared for their livelihood, train them in proper morals and etiquette and behavior, and give them so much affection. And if we take that ideal of a father and we can multiply that by billions and billions of times, we get some idea of what is Krishna. Then he also says that he's the mother. So mother means that we grow inside the body of our mother. We're nourished from the body of our mother. So in a similar way, we are all inside the body of the Lord. Just like when Mother Yasoda looks in Krishna's mouth and she sees that we are all inside his body. And what we are nourished from, all of the food we eat, all of our nourishment, is also coming from his body. And just like mothers will have affection for their children, even if the children go bad, right? The child's a criminal, they're in prison, but the mother still feels, and fathers also, but I think especially mothers still feel that affection. So Krishna feels this motherly affection for us, even when we're foolish, even when we make mistakes, even when we do so many things wrong, still he always loves us like a mother. He is the support. So we have so many supports. If we say to someone, you know, how do you support yourself? We mean your job. Right? So we have a job that supports us. In our buildings, the foundation of the buildings support us. Maybe our family helps support us. But all of these supports in this world can crumble, right? Isn't it? But Krishna never crumbles. He's always there supporting us. And the grandfather, Prabhupada sometimes says the grandfather is more affectionate than the father. In other words, we're in Krishna's dynasty, just like when you do a yajna, the priest will say what your family is, and they'll say, Achyuta Gotra, you're in the family of Krishna. And the object of knowledge. So the famous scientist, Louis Pasteur, he said if you study a little bit of science, you could become an atheist. But if you study science deeply, you will have to become a theist. Whatever we study deeply will lead us to Krishna. And the purifier. So we do so many things to become purified. We take a bath, we wash our clothes, we clean our house, we try to eat healthy food, take exercise, maybe we go through some sort of counseling or therapy. But the purifying agent in all of those things, what allows them to purify us, is Krishna. So again he says he's Om. So Om seems very simple, one syllable, Om. How can that be God? So Krishna also seems very simple. Lord Brahma made this mistake that he sees the little cowherd boy, right, playing with his friends, eating with his left hand, right? He's got yogurt and rice and fruit in his left hand. And he thinks, oh, so simple, little cowherd boy, how can he be God? So one may also think, how can Om be God? And he is the goal. Prabhupada says if our mind is disturbed, that's because we don't have an ultimate goal. So when we set goals, we work to achieve them. When we achieve them, there's Krishna. And he's the sustainer. So what sustains us? Air, temperature, water, food, our homes. On an emotional level, our family and friends, our work. But ultimately, without Krishna working through them, none of them can truly sustain us. So the master, so this is not very popular in 2024. Nobody likes to have masters. How many of you have ever had a really good boss? Anyone here ever had a really good boss? It's always a minority. You know, when you have a really, really good boss, it's so nice, you can just relax. You know your boss is going to take care of stuff. You can just focus on what you need to do. I read something from one Christian writer that really moved me. He was saying, Brant Henson, he was saying that he and his wife and their 2 young children got in the car, puts the kids in their car seat. And they first stop at a grocery store and they're sitting in the car, the wife gets out and she buys some things, comes back into the car. Then they go to a gas station. Do you call it gas or petrol? Petrol, like the British. Okay, so they stopped at a petrol station and he gets out, he puts petrol in the car, then he gets back in. Then they drive to a friend's house. Wife gets out, drops off some things at her friend's. Then they're on the highway. Do you call highway or motorway? Highway. Highway, like the Americans. Okay, so then they're on the highway, and he's driving too fast. Said, I was driving too fast, and then the police come with the sirens, and lights, and the police officer comes and rolls down the window, gives him a ticket. And they're driving on a little further, and his 3-year-old daughter says, Daddy, where are we going? And he said, all of a sudden I realized we've been in this car for at least 45 minutes. And from the point of view of a 3-year-old, we're stopping, Mommy gets out, comes back, Daddy gets out, does something to the car, comes back, Mommy gets out. Then we stop for this funny man with the lights. But she's just peaceful in the car. Doesn't even know where she's going. Well, why was she peaceful? What did she know? Who was driving? She knew who was driving. I am the witness. So this can make us a little nervous. Oh, Krishna's the witness. He sees everything. Oh, no. That's not exactly like that. So you can do a little experiment. You can go to someone who genuinely loves you, and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you for 2 hours about everything I did today. What do you think? See, but Krishna really cares. He cares about everything we think, everything we feel, everything we desire, everything we do, not just now, but forever. I am the abode. So how do we feel when we go home? Oh, right? You can relax. We can be our authentic self. So Krishna is everywhere. And as the abode, we can always relax in Him. This is one I like to think about whenever I go home. As soon as I walk in the door of my home. I am the refuge. So there's many places. One is in 321, 17 in the Bhagavatam, where Srila Prabhupada compares Krishna to an umbrella against the sun or the rain of Maya. So we went to a wedding the other day, and it was a garden wedding. We were sitting out in the sun, and they gave everyone an umbrella. Actually, those are technically called parasols. They were only for the sun, not for the rain. So Krishna is that umbrella. He is the refuge. And He is the most dear friend. So I hope all of us have at least one friend. I hope everyone here has at least one friend. Do you know what it's like to have a friend? Someone where there's a sense of equality, a sense of camaraderie. It's fun to do things with that person. You have a sense that you're there for them, that they're there for you. And that feeling of friendship that we have, that sense of friendship, I can just take that to infinity. And what kind of a friend is Krishna? The creation and the annihilation. So we're fascinated by both creation and destruction because they're both Krishna. Just like little children, they like to build towers out of blocks, right? And then what do? It's not too over it. There's people who make their living nowadays by making videos of knocking down block towers. You seen any of these? They build them, usually like with a domino effect, And they just knock down one block and the whole thing knocks down in some complicated way, and they monetize that. That's how they pay their bills. And so, why? Because we're fascinated. We're fascinated by both creation and annihilation because they're Krishna. And the basis of everything. So secularism means when I explain the story of my life or the story of the world without reference to God. But actually beneath our joys, our sorrows, our triumphs, our struggles, our clarity, our confusion, behind everything, the basis of everything is Krishna. And I am the resting place. I really liked finding these pictures. This is something I think about every evening when I go to bed, lie in my bed. Krishna is the resting place. This can be our physical resting place. Sometimes we have a place of mental peace, mental rest. Of course, again, Krishna is everywhere, and we can always rest in Him. Again, he says He's the seed, so we all eat seeds. The majority of human beings have seeds as their primary food. Wheat, rice, oats, barley, rye, buckwheat, millet, all the beans, all the lentils, and even a lot of the spices. The seeds are the concentrated energy of the plant. So every time we eat a roti, or we eat some rice, or we have some dal, Krishna is the seed. And He gives heat. So when we're cooking, right, we take the food, we put it on the heat, and the heat makes the molecules dance. That's why our clothes dry in the heat, because the heat makes the water molecules dance off the clothes. So the heat makes the molecules dance, and it changes the texture and the flavor of the food. It liquefies, it releases all of the flavors. Similarly, when we come in front of the Lord, we cannot help but dance, and our heart melts, and our real flavor manifests. I withhold and send forth the rain. I think I was about 10. We were driving down the street, and it was only raining on our side of the street, like right on the line. And it was funny, I clearly remember it, because until that time I had never really considered the fact that when it's raining there's some end to it, you know? It's like it's raining all over the planet at the same time. Like, oh my goodness, there's an end, and you can actually see where the rain ends. So when our oldest son was about 1.5, we were living in a temple ashram, and in the corridor there was a sink. So sometimes he'd get a container, and he'd go over to the sink, and he'd wait for one of the other ladies to come by, and he'd put it up and say, water, water, water. And so they would give him water. And what will a 1-year-old child do with water? And then after he poured it on the floor, what would he do? Right? Make a big mess. Stamp with it. And so the other women would say to me, Urmila, why are you giving your child water? I said, I'm not giving him water. You're giving him water. They said, but he comes to us. Water, water. Sometimes Krishna turns on the tap, and sometimes he turns it off. Immortality and death. Prabhupada will often say how Krishna is death, and even the atheists will meet Krishna in the form of death. Of course, we are all very frightened of death. You're frightened of death because it means the end of our identity in this life. I remember early in the movement we used to do a philosophical drama every Sunday feast, and one of them was called The Wrong Bank Account. So you may know that you can put money into someone else's account if you know their numbers. Do you know that? You can't take money out of someone else's account. You can put money into someone else's account. You just have to know the numbers. So in this drama, this man was working, and every week he decided to put something aside for savings, so he would put it in his account. And when he went to withdraw it, at the time to retire, there was nothing there. He had gotten a number wrong, and he'd been putting all of his money in someone else's account. So generally in this life, we're investing our mental, emotional, physical, everything, energy into something that's not us. Our body, our mind, our relationships in this world, our prestige in this world, our facility in this world. And we're terrified of death because we're going to lose all of that. Everything we've invested in. It's interesting, when Krishna was in the coils of Kaliya, the residents of Vrindavan were devastated. And Prabhupada explains in Krishna book, that's because they had invested everything in Krishna. So death is only scary if we haven't invested everything in Krishna. And if we have, we'll see that Krishna is death. Prabhupada talks about the cat carrying the kitten and carrying the rat. When the kitten's being carried, it goes, oh, mommy. And when the rat's being carried, it's like, ah, death. So we can also see death as Krishna. And Krishna is also immortality. Nahanyate hanimane sharire, death is not the end. We are eternal. We live eternally. And beyond death, there is our relationship with Krishna. So we looked at chapter 7 and 9. Now we're going to look at chapter 10. The beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Our childhood, our middle age, our old age. Again, he says he's the light of the sun. So really, everything in this world is a transformation of sunlight. The plants are using photosynthesis to transform sunlight into food. We then eat the plants, which is then transformed into our body. Even people eating animals are eating animals that are eating plants. This wood is coming from a tree that got all his energy from the sunlight. Ultimately, everything is just light from the sun. And that is Krishna. Among the stars, I am the moon. When we see the moon surrounded by stars, we can remember Krishna eating picnics surrounded by his cowherd friends, or dancing surrounded by gopis. The mind, so for us yogis, we generally think of the mind as a problem. But as the chief of the senses, it represents Krishna. And it's very nice when Krishna is speaking to the gopis, telling them how they shouldn't lament for him in separation. Prabhupada explains that whatever we can think, feel, and desire with our mind is all within the realm of Krishna's energy. And therefore, there's no way we can use our mind that's actually separate from Krishna. And when we realize that, we can understand that the mind is also Krishna and make the mind our friend. The living force or consciousness, our awareness. If we can now become aware that we are aware. We are aware of where our shoulders are. We are aware of where our ears are, our toes. Even with our eyes closed, we are aware of the space in the room in front of us, to the sides, and behind us. And every other person in this room is also aware. Even the plants are aware of where there's moisture, where there's light. The whole world is full of awareness, and that is Krishna. Among Rudras, I am Shiva. Lord Shiva takes care of all the ghosts and hobgoblins and crazy people in the universe. So one of my godbrothers, he's retired now, but he used to work as a physician in the maximum security prison for the criminally insane. What a job, huh? So that's Lord Shiva's job. Of bodies of water, I am the ocean. So we went today, by the grace of Ramuna and Vasanti and Esther, we went to see 2 oceans today at the same time. So what part of the Lord's body is the ocean? What? The waist, Krishna's waist. And the ripples and the waves are his dancing and his lines on 3 sides. So the ocean, of course, it looks very plain. You just look at the ocean, it looks very plain. But actually it's extremely deep, extremely broad, and it's teeming with life. So similarly, Krishna it looks like a simple little boy, but he's deep, he's broad, and he's full of so many loving pastimes. And again, Krishna says that he's Om. Srila Jiva Goswami explains about Om, which Srila Prabhupada quotes twice in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the Om is made of three sounds, actually, U, and And the is Krishna, the U is Srimati Radharani, and the Anushwar, is all of us. By the way, the Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada says, also contains Om. So we can say this is Krishna and Rama, the U is Hare, but then where's the where's the Jiva? Where are we in the Hare Krishna mantra? But the Hare Krishna mantra is what's called in Sanskrit the vocative case. So Sanskrit is an interesting language, and you change the form of the noun according to what job it does in the sentence. Like with English, we'll add, like we'll have a preposition to Krishna, but in Sanskrit you change the word. In Sanskrit you change the word, so if you want to say to Krishna, it becomes Krishnaya. So if you're going to use Krishna as a subject, like Krishna goes to the Yamuna, it becomes Krishna. But if you're talking to Krishna, you don't say, hey Krishna, you say, hey Krishna. It's a form of the word that's used when you're talking to him. Just like my name is Urmila, but if you were talking to me in Sanskrit, you wouldn't say, hey Urmila, you'd say, hey Urmile. The form would change. So when we have these forms of Hare, Krishna, and Rama, there must be someone speaking. We will never have these forms of the word unless someone's speaking. And the Hare Krishna mantra is a very unusual mantra in that regard. Like usually it's Om Krishnaya Namaha. I offer my obeisances to Krishna, but here you're just talking directly to Krishna. So there's the Jiva. So Krishna says he was all the yajnas, but he's especially the yajna of the holy name. Now in the other kinds of yajna, just like I was giving the analogy of calling my daughter, and you have to get everything right, correct? You have to have enough battery on your phone, you have to have enough bars on your network, you have to have the right number, it's got to be the right time of day. And it's like that with a lot of the Vedic yajnas. You know, you chant one number wrong, you chant one letter wrong, and instead of getting a great demigod, you get a demon. Right? You chant the mantra for a son and you change your goal, you get a daughter. Everything gets shifted. It's just the wrong time of day, you know, and then you may again end up with demons or so many things. But the holy name is not that kind of a yajna. The holy name, you can connect with the Lord in his name when you're clean, when you're dirty, when you're tired and sick, when you're healthy and alert, in a holy place, in the toilet room. You can chant in your mind silently, softly, loudly, by yourself, in a group, anywhere, anytime, under any situation, and Krishna is there. So, of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Krishna's love for us and concern for us is steady like the Himalayas. Of course, you don't have any Himalayas here. You do have a lot of mountains. Krishna's bones is the mountain, so at least they can remind you of how Krishna is immovable like the Himalayas. Do you have any? I don't think I've seen any banyan trees. Do you have any banyan trees here? Do you have some? Do you? Do you have the Indian kind or the Chinese kind? This is a picture of the Indian kind. Does it look like this? Yeah. So the Indian banyans, you can't tell, you know, once they're matured, you can't tell what the original trunk is anymore. Right? They're spreading everywhere, just like Krishna. And the king. So people are still fascinated by kings. I don't quite know why in 2024, but they are. You know, when, what was his name? Charles, right? When there was this coronation, so many people were watching. So if people are so fascinated even by these impotent figurehead kings, how much more fascinating is Krishna, who's actually the king of kings. And he's the lightning as a weapon. So sometimes we're confused, we're sad, Right? We don't know what to do, and then we have some realization, like a lightning bolt. Oh! That's Krishna cutting through all of our difficulties. And the Surabhi cows that can give unlimited milk or whatever one desires. So Krishna is called Eko Bahunam Yogadadaki Kaman, that he's been fulfilling everyone's desires since the beginning of time. Explained in Ishopanishad also, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desires. So there's many reasons why people have children, but of all those reasons, Krishna says that he is the love between the husband and the wife. This is a painting of Arjuna and Nati. And he is Yamaraj. What part of the Lord's body is Yamaraj? Anyone remember from yesterday what part of the Lord's body is Yamaraj? His jaws, yes. Sometimes it appears to us that there's not justice in the world, right? That the bad people are getting away with stuff and the good people are having a hard time. But we should know that behind the scenes, there is time. We try to use time, beat time, sometimes we waste time, save time. But it's destroying everything. Yes? Our best course is to surrender to the Lord at His time and give everything to Him in this moment, 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 and then we will not be disturbed by time. He is the lion, just like the lion roars and all the smaller animals run away. So when Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, the atheists and the demons, they become frightened and run away. The wind. So we all know that nice smell, right? When you hang your clothes outside to dry, you get a nice smell from the wind. Or if you have a musty room and you open up the windows and you air it out, that wonderful purifier of the wind. Parasuram, who roots out corruption in government and in leadership. Whenever people are working to destroy corruption in leadership, we can remember Parasuram. And he is the Makara. And here you can see Ganga riding on the Makara. So we don't usually see Makaras, and there's no English translation for this word. Srila Prabhupada will usually translate it as shark, or dolphin, or crocodile, the great beasts of the sea. And the Ganges, Mother Ganga, the spiritual water that comes from beyond the universe. It came from the piercing of the universal layers by the toenail of the Lord as Vamande, Paranakanyera Janita Janabhavana. The beginning, the middle, and the end. The bottom of our sandwich, the middle of our sandwich, the top of our sandwich. The planning the festival, the having the festival, the cleaning up after the festival. The planning the journey, arriving at the destination, coming back home. All of that is Krishna. The science of the self. It's actually, I'm just studying today Prahlad Maharaj's teachings to his friends, and he's teaching them about the nature of the soul. When Prabhupada's saying in this purport that we have all the qualities of God, but to a small degree. Of course, we are also very small, so that's no problem. And one of the qualities that really struck me was self-illuminated. We have our own light. We have the qualities of God. We're beautiful. We generate our own light. We're geniuses. We're powerful. We're wonderful. And Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 20, that once you see yourself, you think there's nothing more to be gained. And you never depart from truth, and even the greatest difficulties will not shake one. So what greater science is there than the science of the self? And Krishna says he is Vada. Vada means a discussion where we park our egos at the door and we're just looking for truth. Usually Vada is between guru and disciple, although it can be between equals. And we've all had discussions like this, right? Where there's no ego involved. We just want to find the truth. Those are wonderful, aren't they? Trishanti Charavanti Cha, they're full of satisfaction and happiness. Then there's other kinds of discussions. There's Jalpa and Vitanda. So Jalpa is not where you're looking for truth. You're trying to win. Like this ongoing discussion with one devotee for a few weeks. And finally I said to her, "What do you want?" She said, "I want you to say that I am right." So that is Jalpa. Vitanda, you're not trying to find truth, and you're not even trying to establish anything. You're simply trying to show the other person's wrong. All you want to do is destroy. So there's Vada, Jalpa, and Vitanda, and of those Krishna says he is Vada. Of letters he is Ah. If we can say that, everyone try this? Ah, ah, ah. You notice you're not using your tongue, your lips, or your teeth. This is the most basic sound. It's the sound that's the building block of all language sounds. An inexhaustible time. Our good times come, our good times go, bad times come, bad times go. But throughout all of them, there is Krishna. All devouring death. So not just the final death of this body, but all the little deaths. The death of our education, the death of a particular career, a particular home, a particular relationship, a project, a hope, a dream, all the little deaths along the way. The shoes that we loved, and all those little deaths. Actually, they're Krishna. When Vamandev came to beg charity from Bali Maharaj, and his guru, Shukracharya, was telling Bali, no, don't give anything. And then Bali said, the Lord's going to take away everything at death. Why don't I give him now what he's going to take anyway? A year before my mother passed away, she gave away almost all of her possessions. And she said, better to give with a warm hand than a cold hand. If I've already given everything to Krishna, then when he takes it, it's already his. And there's no sting. You understand? Let's say I've given you something and you say, okay, but Urmila, you can keep it in your room for now, I'll get it later. But I've already let go of it. And when you come to pick it up, I already knew it was yours. There's a very famous story, true story. There was one Jewish rabbi, and he and his wife had 2 teenage sons. And while he was teaching in the school during the day, his sons got some disease and died very quickly. Maybe like there's certain kinds of meningitis, things like that, where you can die in a matter of hours. And he didn't know. And he came home, and his wife met him at the door and said, my dear husband, some time ago a merchant came by and left a couple jewels with us for safekeeping. In former times there weren't banks. And if you wanted to leave something, like we know that Srila Rupa Goswami left his coins with the merchant. So you might just leave them with someone for safekeeping. So she said, some merchant came by and he left 2 jewels with me to take care of. And today he came by and asked for them back. What should I do? He said, well, of course, you have to give them back. So this is the understanding of Krishna as all-devouring death, the death of everything. This is something I really like, the start before the start. The start that we only see in hindsight. Oh, actually, this relationship started 2 years before I met you, when I wrote to your friend. Oh, this business idea actually started 6 months ago when I read that article. The start before the start, where when you had it, you didn't know it was a start. Later on you see, oh, that was the real start before the start. And that is Krishna. The fame of women. And here we have Sita, women who are famous for their dharma. That fame of the righteous women is Krishna. And Shri. We were talking last Wednesday night about Shri as one of the prosperity types. That Shri means kind of sparkly brilliance. Right? This beauty sparkly brilliance of women. I was just reading in the book of Bond of Love how when Prabhupada met my god sister Urmila, he said to her, you are very beautiful. She was like 15, 16 years old. He said, you are very beautiful. Become beautiful inside and use your beauty for Krishna. So we should see this beauty of women as that's Krishna and meant to be used in his service. And the speech of women, so in Bhagavatam 957, it says that Sudarshan is the master of speech. When we think Sudarshan, it illuminates, it cuts ignorance. Right? Actually, Sudarshan illuminates the whole spiritual world, according to Kavi Karnapur. When women speak like that as a representative of Sudarshan, that is Krishna. And among women, I am memory. When the women can remember, okay, my husband wants this, and this kid wants this, and I have to do this later. That's Krishna. And among women, he's intelligence, Meda. What's that verse about Lord Chaitanya that has the word Meda in it?
Krishna Varnam.
Krishna Varnam, Krishna, right? Sumeda Saha, one who has good or beautiful intelligence, will take part in the Sankirtan movement. Prabhupada writes in his commentary on the third verse of teachings of Queen Kunti that sociologically speaking, women generally outnumber men in religious observances, I think. You're very evil. But this tendency of women, this intelligence of women to want to take shelter of the Lord, that is Krishna. Steadfastness, deep, when women are chaste and faithful and keep their vows, that is Krishna. Then, the patience of women. So how many of you ladies are mothers? How many mothers do you have? Okay, do you have to be patient with your children? Right? I tell parents you have three choices. Be patient, have someone else watch them, or go crazy. Okay, now you guys don't listen to this. Do you ladies have to be patient with your husbands too? Oh, guys might listen. So that's Krishna. Here in this picture we have this is Sukanya and Shaivana Moon at the top picture. A poetry on the Gayatri. So the Gayatri mantra, many of us chant the Gayatri mantra every day. So this is God in the form of a poem. Alright, well this one's not applicable here. You guys are below the equator, I think there's 37 degrees south. So you have your seasons are a different way. But above the equator, at least, this is the harvest season. So most cultures, unless they're right on the equator and they don't really have a harvest season, most cultures have some sort of a harvest festival. What is the Gaudiya Vaishnava harvest festival? Govardhan Puja, yes. And flower-bearing spring. So you have something of a winter here, yeah?
Yeah.
A little something. Not a deep winter.
Deep enough.
Deep enough, huh? All right. Don't ever go to Norway. So after the cold and the dark of winter, when the trees wake up and everything's full of flowers, it's the season of youth. And Krishna is ever youthful. Actually, his name Madhava means both the husband of the goddess of fortune and springtime. Gambling. So this is very interesting. Of all the ways of cheating, gambling is perhaps the most interesting, because generally in cheating, you don't know you're being cheated. Right? Like we call them, in America, we call them con men. They win your confidence. Like you think this person is my friend, they're a nice guy, and then all of a sudden your bank account's empty. Right? Usually cheating goes like that. But in gambling, you know you're being cheated. Okay, let's sit down, deal the cards, I'm going to try to cheat you, and you're going to try to cheat me. Right? It's an interesting form of cheating. That represents Krishna. This is one I really like to meditate on, where Krishna says he's the splendor. He's the wow factor. So Srila Rupa Goswami, in talking about the 12 rasas, when he talks about the rasa of wonder, Adbhuta rasa, He says there has to be some wonder in anything in order to feel rasa, in order to feel pleasure. So in order to experience pleasure in anything, there has to be some sense of wonder. There has to be some sense of wow. And that wow is Krishna. Victory. Now, how do we feel when we're victorious? Especially after a long struggle. And adventure. And adventure means, do we know what's going to happen? No. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we can see the whole material world as our adventure with Krishna. Oh,
I forgot.
You forgot.
Yeah.
So better late than that. Thank you. The strength of the strong. So before Krishna says that he is a strength devoid of passion and desire, but here he says he's all strength. Remember we talked about that yesterday? Right? What did we talk about strength yesterday? Anyone remember? Not demigods. Hiranyakashipu says to Prahlad,
where do you get your superhuman power from?
and Prahlad says, from the same place you do, Father, from God. So Krishna is all strength. He's even the strength of the demons. Even they can't have any strength without him. And he is punishment to repress lawlessness. So anytime we feel at least relatively safe, it's because the criminals are being punished. This is one I really like. Of those who seek victory, I am morality. So none of us wins all of life's battles, right? Some things we lose. Have you ever lost a battle in life, but you kept your principles? You kept your integrity? You said, well, things didn't work out the way I wanted, but I never compromised my integrity. Yeah? You've had that experience? Didn't that feel like a kind of victory? Even though technically you lost? Well, I have that victory, that I kept my morality. That's Krishna. And he is silence. Prabhupada writes in this purport, this is for verse 1038, among the confidential activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating, silence is most important because by silence one can make progress very quickly. Often we are eager to talk to Krishna, and in the silence we can hear him. He is our wisdom when we get that insight of realization, of deep understanding. And again he said he is the seed, but here he's the seed of everything. The seed of our projects, our ideas, our relationships, our jobs, our homes, our everything. He is that beginning seed. And this is one I really like to meditate on. There's so many beautiful things in this world. Today we went out and saw some beautiful things in the ocean and the mountains. Beautiful architecture, flowers. And this is just the lowest of the middle planets. How many beautiful, glorious things must there be in this universe? And this is only one of so many universes. And if you put all those things together, it's just a spark of how glorious and wonderful Krishna is. So we looked at chapter 7, 9, 10, and there's a few in 15. The splendor of the sun, the beauty of sunrise and sunset. What's that part of the Lord? Sunrise and sunset? His what? Well, the sun is his eyes, and sunrise and sunset is his garments. Yes, his clothes. And then the glory of the sun at full noon, the splendor of the moon, reflecting on the water like diamonds, shining like a pearl in the sky. The splendor of fire. Do we all like to watch fire dance? That splendor of fire. The pilot of the planets. So, whenever we're in a moving vehicle, we feel it moving. But the earth is moving so much faster than any plane. Do you feel it moving? Amazing, huh? The moon that gives the juice of the flavor of the vegetables. The fire of digestion. How does he do that? You know, yesterday my earlobe was a roti. Right? My fingernails were bananas. How did the bananas change into fingernails? How did the rice turn into my nose? That's the fire of digestion. So we can meditate on every time we're eating. And he joins with the prana, moving the food from our mouth to our esophagus, to our stomach, to our small intestines, to all of the veins in our body. Now we're at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15. This verse is Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sannivisto Matasmitir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. I give everyone knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So this was a favorite verse in our family. Whenever anybody couldn't find something, we would say, chant 15:15. Ask Krishna to give you knowledge and remembrance. Mata, I can't find my other sock. Well, just chant 15:15. Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sannivisto Matasmitir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. I found it. So once when I was traveling, one devotee came to me and said, Urmila, I can't find my phone. And I said, well, just chant 15:15. So she started walking around the room going, 15:15. And she's watching. So, what would you like to meditate on? Someone? The sun, okay. Someone else? Huh? Beginning, middle, and end. Okay, someone else? Yes? Sound. Yes?
The gambling of cheats.
Gambling of cheats. All right, that's going to be an interesting one to meditate. Do you run into a lot of gamblers or cheaters during your normal day?
People scamming on the phone.
Well, there you go. Every time you get like one of those scam phone calls or something, you can remember that. That's a new one.
They're getting very expert.
They are,
My
indeed.
son is a CFA and we scammed him.
Usually we just do that twice. Yeah, I have several friends who've been severely scammed. They're very intelligent people. Okay, anyone else? What do you want to meditate on? Thank you.
The goal.
The goal. Okay, someone else?
The seed of all existence.
Seed of all existence. Excellent. Somebody else?
Splendor.
Huh?
Splendor.
Splendor.
Of bodies of water on the ocean.
The ocean.
All my abilities.
All of our abilities. All right. Somebody else? Yes?
Touching the river.
River.
Yeah.
That we did yesterday. Well, river's on the Ganges, but you're not going to run into the Ganges here. So it's going to be kind of hard to meditate on that one. But you can meditate on how the rivers are Krishna's veins, but that we talked about yesterday.
The sacrifice.
All the yajnas. Okay, anyone else?
Krishna is our friend.
Our friend.
Your friend.
Anyone else?
I'm the witness.
That Krishna's the witness. Excellent. Someone else?
Refuge.
The refuge. When you lie down to go to sleep tonight, you can remember that Krishna is the resting place. Right? As soon as you go into your home, even if your home is just a little room in the temple, Krishna is the abode. When you lie down, Krishna is the resting place. So I want to thank you all very much for your incredible hospitality here in Cape Town. Maybe I'll come back a little sooner than I did a long time before I was here. So it's really wonderful to be here. Such a vibrant, loving temple full of devotion, full of enthusiasm for serving Srila Prabhupada. So again, thank you very much. Please excuse me for any mistakes in this presentation. Any mistakes are fully my responsibility. Anything good is coming from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas and the Shastra. And of course, with this presentation, I also owe a huge debt to my co-author, Kamalasita, from this area. So I really want to thank her very, very much. And hopefully it won't be too long before I get to see her again. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.